Hey, we're live. We're live. This is Trevor Emden speaking, and I know there's a few people here already. So just testing the system, making sure that everything's tickety-boo and hunky-dory. Welcome to the early comers. Thank you for being so punctual. I think at least one person was probably here before me. So before we begin, because I'll just wait for a few more people to show up. There's a lot of people registered for this presentation today. And I know not everyone will come to the live presentation, but I'm expecting some more people. So while we're here, first of all, you should be able to see on your screen you should be able to see my screen, which has a slide on it that says Attract Money Miracles. And obviously, I'm assuming you can hear me, because if you can't, I'm talking to myself. And you should also have access to a chat box. So if you can see that slide and you can hear me, obviously if you can't hear me, you won't even know I'm talking, but I've got indicators here that tell me my microphone is working. Could you please type yes or hello or something sociable in the chat box so that I know that we can actually interact. I've got Claudia and Rick, I believe, so far. So it'd be great if you could let me know that you can see and hear. Now, I think sometimes there's a time delay as well from between you typing and posting and me actually seeing it at my end. So I will patiently wait. Hey, thank you. So, where are you guys dialing in from? I'm here in the UK. It's a slow way to have a conversation, isn't it? Okay. We'll just give people another minute or two to arrive. So thank you for bearing with me, the early comers. It's just the top of the hour. Okay, we've got one or two more people coming in. Hello, welcome. Thank you for being here. Well, look, in the interest of not keeping the people who are here waiting too long, I think more people may well turn up. There's a lot of people registered for this one, and as I've said already, I know that some folks, I mean, there's people come from Australia, which is I think 11 hours time difference from where I am, so it's very inconvenient. It has to be inconvenient for someone, whatever time you set these at, unfortunately. You know, there being all those time zones around the world, and someone somewhere is in bed or just getting up, or it's the middle of the night. So those of you that are here, I hope that I'm not interrupting your day or your night too much, and thank you for taking the time out to do this. Okay, so I know you can see my slides. So here's here's how the technical stuff works. You have a chat box which you can type into, and I can also type back to you as well, although I'm more likely to answer you in words, obviously, because I can see your questions. However, once I start presenting the slides, which I will do in just a moment or two, I cannot at the same time see the chat box. I have to flick back and forth between screens. I know it's clumsy, but right now that's where the technology and my equipment is. So what I suggest you do, I'm going to cover quite a lot of ground, and in order to be respectful of your time as well, I'm going to make it quite intensive. So you probably will have some questions, and I will leave time at the end for questions and answers. But what I suggest is that you, if you think of a question or something pops into your head as we go along, type it into the chat box, and then when we come to the Q&A at the end, I will pick up all the questions then. Obviously, you can still ask questions on the fly at the end. I'm not telling you you must ask them as we go along, but I'm saying please feel free to do that, and don't feel that I'm ignoring you if I don't answer your question as soon as you type it in, because I probably won't see it until I come back to the screen where I can see the chat box as well, because I can't see the slides in the chat box all at the same time. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so anything else housekeeping wise that I need to tell you? Yeah, I imagine that we will go, depending on how many questions there are, but around about an hour and a quarter-ish. So in order to try and keep to that schedule, depending from where you're from in the world, I'm going to get cracking on this. So I am aware that some of you here today probably don't know me, because I think some of you have responded to a promotion that I did on Facebook telling you about this webinar. So I will introduce myself and tell you a little bit of my backstory and why I'm presenting this in a few minutes. First of all, just to say that my name is Trevor Emden, and these days I am a success coach. I'm also an author of many self-help programs and a few books as well, and an NLP practitioner. And if you don't know what that is, I will give you a little bit of background about that as well, because it's kind of significant. And my background is in psychiatry, psychotherapy. I was trained in those areas of life, and I worked in the field of mental health for well over 30 years, far too many to mention. So that's me in a nutshell, or thumbnail sketch of me. So this presentation is called Attract Money Miracles, and as you can see, I've put on the slide, attract money whenever you need it without extra effort, even if you're a total law of attraction skeptic. Now, the law of attraction is an idea that I know a lot of people find either intriguing. A few people find it like it's their philosophy, it's their what they do, it's how they live, and I'll talk more about where I am with that in a minute. And a lot of people I know are very skeptical, even cynical about it. Skeptical often because they've tried it and got no significant or meaningful results. Cynical possibly that, and or because they're of a somewhat scientific frame of mind, and they just say, well, there's no real proof that it works. You can't make repeatable experiments, and so on. So wherever you are on that spectrum, and I may have missed out certain categories, my apologies if you're somewhere else on it, but I suspect most people are roughly in one of those 2 or 3 areas. What I want to say to you here today is it doesn't really matter, because the law of attraction I've discovered, and I was a skeptic and I'm not anymore, so I should put that on the table. But the law of attraction is a state of mind. I think that we do have quite a lot of control over what happens to us, obviously including attracting money. And I have not only done that many times, but I'm now so certain of it that since 2013, I've had no paid job. I do work. I don't loaf around on the sofa, just expecting money to drop out of the sky like it is for the fellow in the picture. But what I do is what I love, which includes doing this, coaching and training and teaching and encouraging people to have more fulfillment and enjoyment out of their lives. I love doing that, and I've always loved doing that. And now I do it my own way, and I'm not subject to a whole lot of rules or shifts I have to get up at a certain time in the day for, and all the things that go with having a job. Of course, some people would say, well, the downside is you don't have a payday anymore. And I say, no, that's true. I don't actually know when money's coming. I can't say it's going to be in on a specific date of the month, which is sometimes the source of a little uneasiness, but I know that I can always attract more money. Money comes. So let's see how we go with that. You may have questions about the law of attraction as we go on, but it shouldn't matter to you. So what you're going to discover in this presentation today is, first of all, why attracting money is effortless. It doesn't work otherwise, I've put there, because actually what I really want to get to with that is often what people want to know, of course you want to know, is, well, how do you do it? And then because we've grown up in the culture, probably, I don't know you, but in a westernized kind of culture where we think that everything has a how-to about it, how to do X, Y, Z, and there's a technique you can follow, like following a recipe or a knitting pattern. And if you follow it accurately, you will produce such and such a result. The difference here, the analogy I want to make is the difference between, if you were, let's say, a pianist. If you were a good pianist and a classically trained pianist, then you could open up some sheet music, say written by Chopin, and you would be able to follow the pattern of the notes on the page and play the music. You'd be able to reproduce the tune, the melody, complex though it is, that Chopin wrote all those years ago. That's one way to play the piano. But another way to play the piano is to be a jazz pianist, and someone says, let's play a riff in E flat, and you can create something around that. Now, in order for that to happen, you have to, if you're the jazz pianist, you have to know something about, probably quite a lot about, how, first of all, you'd have to know what the key of E flat meant, where the black notes and the white notes would fall in that key. You'd have to know something about jazz notes and jazz chords and jazz patterns of rhythms and so on. You'd have that vocabulary in your head. But what you were actually going to say, you wouldn't know until you said it. And that's a bit like how it works with conversation, actually. You think about that. You think about if you, let's say you're walking down the street and you meet someone, an old friend. You didn't know you were going to meet them. Nothing's rehearsed. It's totally spontaneous, coincidental. And you go, hey, how are you? And they say something about, I don't know, let's say they say, how's your business or how's your child? And you will answer them immediately. A stream of words that make coherent sense will utter from your lips. Instantly. You don't have to do like poor Stephen Hawking does, Professor Stephen Hawking, and program the computer word by word inside your head in order to speak. Now, even he knows what he wants to say. He just has to say it, produce the speech much more slowly, because he no longer has the vocal mechanism in his body that works, sadly. Okay? but so his computer does it for him. But nevertheless, the thought will form in his mind immediately, a concept, just a seed of a concept. And this is like this is a bit like how this works. It's you've got the vocabulary, you trust that the vocabulary will be there, you open your mouth and the concept comes out. Now, I know sometimes you say, oh, I didn't quite mean it to come out like that. You know what you meant, but we can turn meaning into language instantly. Now, I have to tell you, as I'm saying this, I didn't rehearse that either. I didn't know I was going to make that analogy as I got to this slide. It just literally came to me and thought, that's how to explain that. Now, that's what I mean by effortless. In the beginning, when you were very tiny, you would have learned language. Now, I'm talking about your mother tongue, your first language, all right? Whatever that is. Mine's English. May or may not have been English for you. I'm not talking about if you speak English as a foreign language. I'm assuming you speak English, otherwise you don't know what I'm talking about at all. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about being able to form sentences and concepts from the beginning. Now, most of us don't remember learning language. We just did. And again, notice that was effortless. Now, I know there are people who study, and I've worked with some of them, who study how language is formed and how it's taught and how we put it together. And some of those people, some of that research still goes on to this day and will go on forever, I imagine, tries to reverse engineer how we naturally learn language as infants. Okay, now notice we call it natural. We simply pick up the words, we name things, we learn and I know that, my mother sat down with me with an A is for apple, B is for ball, ABC book, like most of us probably had. But even so, and it comes bit by bit. But the basic ability to turn concepts into speech is there even if you can't read or write. Okay? So this is a bit like that. What I'm going to give you here is a vocabulary. Once you've got it, it's effortless. There's no screwing up your eyes, visualizing for all you're worth. Am I doing that right? That's what I mean by effortless. You don't have to do any of that. And so that's just bullet point 1. I need to move on. So I hope I've made that concept understandable. And also, next one, why the more you do what you love, the more you will attract riches. Right. You're going to discover that. So this is about following your passion. I'm passionate about teaching people to follow their passion and helping people to do that. What is the point of life apart from anything else if you have something, a dream that you're passionate about? I wish I could do this, and for year upon year and decade upon decade, you feel forced to do something other than what you would really love to be doing. Marking time until the grave, effectively. And people say, well, be realistic. You've got to pay the bills, or we've got responsibilities, got mouths to feed and children to bring up and so on. And I say, yes. Yes, I understand that. And you want to bring them up to follow their dreams or to follow what you're doing, because they'll model you. Why do we want to create a world where generation after generation has to simply, say, well, really glad you're here. You're a miracle. Fantastic. We're really delighted that you turned up in the world. You're the apple of our eye, son or daughter. By the way, from here on in, life just gets tougher and tougher and tougher and tougher until you die. That's not a way to live. So what this speaks to today, although we're talking about something that on the face of it is quite, well, certainly very physical and superficial, money, we all need it in the physical world, so don't dismiss it. But doing what you love actually is attractive to money. And when we start trusting that concept, when we start trusting and believing that, hey, if I was more of me, then I'd have more things would come to me, then I'd have more of me to give, and so on, then we would be even happier and even richer. So that's kind of what I want you to get. A few more people have turned up. Welcome to the people that I didn't say hello to in the first place. I've just quickly dipped into the attendees box. Just to repeat, if you have questions, please type them into the chat box as we go along, because unless I switch screens like I've just done, I can't see that chat box while I'm looking at the slides, but I will answer all your questions as we get to the end. So thank you to the folks that who are here. Okay, so, and then of course I'm going to show you the simple 6-step formula for making this happen time after time. Now, having said that there's no technique, I have to teach this in some way that I can communicate it and that you can understand it. So I have, if you like, reverse engineered what I discovered and said, well, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. Now, actually, in reality, the 6 steps that you're going to see happen pretty much all at once and all in one bundle, but I have to break it down so that you can see how the whole thing goes together. So I hope that makes sense. Please let me know if it doesn't make sense. I will look at the chat box again in a slide or two. Let me just introduce me. That's me. That's roughly what I look like. I'm the one in front of the picture, by the way. I don't look like the thing behind. I'm Trevor Emden, as said, and as I also mentioned, I trained too many years ago to consider in psychotherapy and in psychiatry. I was senior mental health practitioner for many years. And I was also, as I've also mentioned, a total law of attraction skeptic. In fact, the first I heard about the law of attraction was in the early 1990s, which was a very interesting time for me to hear about it at a personal level, because my life was falling apart. Professionally, Mrs. Thatcher was Prime Minister over here at the time, and she was closing down psychiatric hospitals, including the one that I was working in. I've been working in for a good many years. The psychiatrist with whom I'd worked and who had become and is to this day, I'm happy to say, a personal friend, wonderful man, was on the verge of retiring. And my first marriage was, well, broke, fell to pieces and broke. And so my life was in turmoil, and I was in turmoil, really. And quite a lot of debt as well ensued from the breakup of the marriage, and a huge mortgage that I couldn't afford on my own, and all kinds of stuff went on. So for me to discover the law of attraction at that time, and I swear to you, I didn't go looking for it, I'd never heard of it before, was perhaps more than coincidence. Who knows? Maybe we are guided, and that's a thought that's occurred to me many times in my life since then. And again, it's one of those thoughts that I can't prove one way or the other, personal experience, and if I'm really honest with you, I'm not sure, but I kind of trust that these days that things will work out, things will show up, and they do. So because of everything falling apart, I began experimenting with this law of attraction around about 1992, 93. And for a while, for quite a long while really, I never really had any significant results. And I say that, but I persevered with it, partly because I couldn't really see, once I'd got hold of the concept that we create our reality ourselves, A, that's very attractive as a concept. B, it brings up a huge number of questions. Well, how much of it do we create? Can I influence the weather? Could I make the world spin in the opposite direction? I think not, right? But personal circumstances, I think we have quite a lot of control over. But that's what I think now. Back then, I really thought that I wanted it to work, tried the instructions as I understood them and as I thought I received them, and by and large had no meaningful results to speak of, other than the idea that it could work made me feel better. So I stuck with it. What really, I put here huge money breakthrough in 1999, which I'll tell you about in a second, but what really changed it for me, what really brought it all together, was one day when I was at a pretty low ebb, as I've told you, I'm trained in psychotherapy and including something called NLP. I've done quite a lot of training in that. I have a diploma in it. And for those of you who don't know what that is, NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. It was conceived, devised, created, I'm not quite sure what the word is, by two Harvard professors in the early 1970s, late 60s, early 70s, by the names of John Grinder and Richard Bandler, who are both still working today. They haven't spoken to each other for a very long time, I don't think, and they have very different ways of working. But NLP, in a very, very tiny nutshell, because it's a huge subject, deals with the way we process information. It deals with the way we think, and the way we think influences how we feel. And the quickest example I know how to, or I frequently give, and I know how to give about what NLP is, goes like this. So I'd like you to imagine for a moment that you're going somewhere smart, you know, nice dinner, maybe a wedding anniversary or someone's wedding reception. Maybe you're going somewhere smart and you're dressed up and you have a few friends with you and you're walking down the street and all dressed up smart, and then you slip on a banana skin and you don't hurt yourself, but you feel a bit foolish and embarrassed. Let's pretend. I know some people would just find that very funny, but just pretend for a moment that you feel embarrassed. Otherwise, my story won't work. It's only an example, okay? And as you pick yourself up and brush yourself down, you look at your friends and you say, you know what? I feel really stupid right now, but one day I'll be able to look back on this and laugh. And so the NLP question is, well, why would you wait? Because the point is, the slipping on the banana skin is over. You can't go back and unslip. It's the way you're reviewing it inside your own head that makes the difference to the way you feel and the way you react. So if you could see it as funny now, then you'd feel all right, wouldn't you? So the fact is, what you're effectively saying, by saying one day I'll be able to look back on this and laugh, is that you actually know that you have the capacity to review a memory of an event like that in a different way inside your own head, so that you can now see it as funny rather than embarrassing. So NLP wants to know, what are you doing differently inside your head when you make that happen? Because the reaction, the change in the reaction, is significant and actually huge. The difference between believing the fact that your date hasn't turned up because she hates your guts, or your date hasn't turned up because probably she had a flat tire, is enormous, right? And could have far-reaching consequences on your relationship and maybe for the rest of your life with that person. The ability to choose what to think and what to focus on makes a huge difference. And most of us don't actually ever really take control of that. So NLP teaches you how to do that. Okay, so the money, I was going to tell you about the money. Let me tell you that first. Huge money. In 1999, I went on an Anthony Robbins event in Hawaii. Now, you should know, I did not have the money to go to the Anthony Robbins event. How that came about is also a long story and a quite remarkable one, how I even got the ticket. And I maxed out every available source of funds I had just to get on that plane and go to Hawaii. I was over there for a week, life-changing, magnificent, amazing. And my philosophy about that was, I'll figure out a way to get the money back. I'll figure it out, because I won't get the opportunity back, or it's much less likely. So weighing that up, this is something I want to do, and this is maybe not a once-in-a-life opportunity, but it's a very rare opportunity, and it's come up now. So I'm going to make it happen. So I went out there. I slept on a camp bed because I couldn't afford the hotel bill. I ate apples and muffins and whatever free food they gave out actually in the room. And I drank bottles of water, and that was it for a week, and I didn't care. I had a fantastic time. And when I came back, I had letters from the bank saying, you know, this is going the wrong way. You're supposed to bank with us, not the other way around. Didn't quite put it in that language, but you know, we've bounced this check. You can't pay that. I literally had nothing. I couldn't even put fuel in my car, and I lived on the scraps from what was left in my freezer, friends' generosities, and I made a conscious decision that I could either panic and worry, which is what I would have traditionally done, or having just come back from an amazing experience, life-changing, uplifting at every level experience in Hawaii with Anthony Robbins and about 1,200 other people, that I could stay in that high energy. And it was tough because I had no contracted work. I had my own clinic. I was running a stop smoking clinic at the time, but it depended on people responding to my adverts, turning up and paying me. And I had wobbles. I don't want to lie to you about that. There were days when I just thought, what am I going to do? This just isn't working out. And then I would catch myself doing that. That doesn't help. And I would use my NLP and what I did was, I'd already realized I'd put NLP and the law of attraction together. That was the point of telling you about the NLP. I put them together and made it so that I actually could get into a belief state so that I would attract whatever I needed. And it seemed to work. So at this point in 1999 was the first real test I ever put it to, I suppose. I didn't start it out that way, but it turned out to be that. When I came back, there was no visible means of income at all. And I think 9 days went by and nothing changed. 9 days is a long time when you have no money. And the rent was coming up for due and all kinds of things. And on the 10th day, the phone rang. And it was a woman who also had a stop smoking clinic in the same franchise from Dublin. And she asked me if I would go over there and help her out because she'd been on television over there and had had over 2,000 bookings. She could only see 7 people at a time. So we split the bookings, and each person paid a significant amount of money at that time to go to the clinic, and we took her expenses out of it and the hotel bill and and everything else, and split the remainder. And I went over there for 10 days. She had to buy my ticket because I didn't have enough money, obviously, to fly to Dublin. And I was over there for 10 days. I had 1 day off, so I worked for 9 days. And she paid me in cash at the end of each day because all the clients paid in cash. So we would just count out the money, take out the expenses, split the rest, and I came home with nearly £10,000 in cash. So, and that came from absolutely nowhere. That woman didn't know me. I don't know why I didn't at the time know why she called me. I asked her why she called me. Why'd you call me? You don't know me. And she said, actually, I didn't want to call you. I wanted to call somebody else who was and is a friend, who I do know. But he wasn't available. And he mentioned you. And she said to him, but I don't know Trevor. And he said, well, Trevor's just been to Hawaii as well. We'd both been on the same program in Hawaii. She said, oh, well, in that case, he'll have the same bouncy energy as you, and hired me. So that chain of events, if I hadn't gone to Hawaii, that money would never have come. Right. So it is just, that was the first massive breakthrough. I mean, it was, and I'm going back to, I can see 1999, so I'm going back 16 years or so. And back then, that amount of money, I think we lived on it quite well for 6 months. Obviously, more money came in during the 6 months, but it would have been enough to live on for 6 months. And we did a lot of good things with that. So, incredible. Okay, so now I trust it. It works so well. I quit my day job, as I told you, back in 2013. And after my first 12 months of success, I wrote a book about it. You can't really see it probably very large there, but it's called How to Use the Law of Attraction to Quit Your Day Job. I put a circle around it. And that became a bestseller in its category within a few days. It reached, you can see it's in the top 20, that reached number 20. I think it did go a little higher than that. I didn't actually reach number 1, but I was pretty proud of being in the top 20. You can actually see that number 19 there is, if you know what that is, that's Rhonda Byrne's The Magic, which is one of the follow-ups to The Secret, which is the book that got everybody talking about the law of attraction back in 2007, I think it was. So to be just one behind Rhonda Byrne was some achievement. Dr. Joe Vitale, who was also in The Secret and is very famous both as a marketer and as a teacher of spiritual things, has endorsed that book. And he says it's a gem of a book that will keep you put you in the driving seat of your life. Inspiring and uplifting, I think, is the quote. I think I've remembered most of that. So I'm very proud of that as well. So, you know, I'm doing pretty well. And I now have an international coaching business. I coach people to their own personal success in many ways. So that should give you a little bit of my credentials. Now, here's a question. What's the alternative? You know, this is a question about if you're cynical and skeptical. It's like, why would you do that? Because the alternative is, and I did it for years, you're relying on luck, coincidence, fate, even if you believe in those things. And if they don't work, then you do, usually very hard for 40 years or more. Excuse me. You believe that life is a struggle. Everything's a struggle. Everything's uphill. Oh, I have to work for this. I have to make that happen. I have to, you know, you're going door to door selling, or you're, you know, you're on some sort of treadmill in your job or your office or running your business or whatever it is. And unless those are your dreams, and I don't know anybody that, you know, in their early years and then through their education years and their teen years, when we're all prone to this kind of daydreaming, who says, you know, when I grow up, I want to work really hard for 40 years and you know, I want to run an office or you know, as long as I earn a good pension, so that, you know, hopefully there'll be 10 to 20 years left over when I finally get my freedom before I croak, and I'll have enough money to hopefully do what I love then. Really? Is that the life story you want? I don't know anybody that wants that life story. People want to do what they want to do. We've all got our own passions and dreams and talents and things that we want to, you know, maybe you want to learn a language or learn to play the piano or see Hawaii or whatever it is before you die. Well, what's stopping you from doing those things? Oh, well, I'd have to get lucky. I'd have to win the lottery. How many people do you or I know who say that? Otherwise, they think they're stuck where they are. That's the alternative. And if you believe that this stuff doesn't work or can't work, you're going to be stuck with an alternative like that. So here's the steps. By combining the NLP with metaphysics, which is the law of attraction, I've given these steps names so they're hopefully easier for you to remember and to latch onto. And I'm going to go through them in some detail in the next 15-20 minutes or so. Okay, so hold on to your hats here. Okay, so first step's called clean your sunglasses. Okay, the second step's called pan for gold. Make a documentary, plant the seed, add weed killer, and then kick back on your sun lounger. So let's dive in rather than look at that slide, because that's not a particularly nice looking slide. Okay, so clean your sunglasses. Now, what I mean by that? Okay, so this is, I've already touched on this in a sense. This is like the banana skin story. Okay, you can choose what you focus on. Now, here's the thing. Most of us don't realize that. We talk about, we say things like, I can't help it. It's just the way I am. This is the kind of person that I am. It's just, I got out the wrong side of bed this morning. We have a lot of ways of expressing the concept that we feel that we are slave to our moods and our thought patterns and our states of mind. That's actually not true. Now you'll see that I've written here, the key here is gratitude. Because when you focus on what's working in your life, things will start to shift. So let me just say a little more about that. What we are, most of us, conditioned to focus on is what's not working. Now, I'm British. I don't know where you're from. Maybe the social mores are different where you come from. But here in England, you meet someone you haven't seen for a while, you go, hi, how are you? And they'll say something like, not too bad, mustn't grumble. In other words, what they're thinking, as soon as you say, how are you, where their mind actually goes is kind of, if you could slow that down, they're kind of going, well, is there anything really wrong? No, not too bad. Not too bad. Instead of, you know what, my life is fantastic. I have a great marriage. I'm in good health. I'm loving my job. You know what? The sun's out today. I couldn't be happier. Whatever it is. People don't speak like that, do they? Generally, they don't. You might know one or two people who do. And if you do, they've come to mind now because they're unusual, possibly even exceptional. See what I mean? Most people have a default setting of negativity and even misery. And please stop watching the news. It's a drip feed of misery. It makes us think that the world is a place full of bad things happening. Now, I'm not saying that bad things don't happen, and I'm not saying that we should all be Pollyanna-ish and bury our heads in the sand. It's a bit of a mix of metaphors there, I think. It's ostriches that bury their heads in the sand, but you know what I'm saying. Okay? I'm not saying that. But on the other hand, I would say probably 95 to 99% of the news that I see and hear, I can't do anything about it. And it's designed to be quite concerning. Might be reports about terrorism, wars, droughts, famines, superbugs coming our way, there not being enough money to run our health service, whatever. What am I going to do about any of those things except worry? Now, the perspective they don't give you is that most things are all right. Most countries are not at war. Most people will never fall victim to a terrorist attack, and so on. Most planes will take off and land safely. That's how the world actually is. Most things are all right most of the time. And just look around you. Just look at nature. The seasons come and go. Animals are born and live and die. And things, you know, the world keeps turning. And it is often us that judges things as good and bad. You know, we see these nature documentaries and a lion kills an antelope or something. We go, oh, isn't nature cruel? Well, that's our judgment of it. And we wouldn't hopefully do that to an animal. But then we're not a hungry lion either. So from the lion's perspective, that's not cruel. The lion has to eat. And the lion doesn't have the supermarket to go to. You see what I mean? So I think it's just a case of perspective and shifting. So start noticing what's working in your life. That's what Clean Your Sunglasses is about. Okay? So that's that one. Step one. Step two, pan for gold. Okay, so now what I mean is search inside for why. So this is about digging inside yourself. The gold is inside yourself. Okay? Money doesn't come from outside. By the way, this is quite a good time to ask you a question. And you might want to pop your answer in the chat box and we'll discuss it at the end. What is money? What is it? Have a think about that, and if an answer pops up into your mind, put it in the chat box and we'll discuss it at the end. So what I want you to get, when you're attracting money into your life, money is never the end. It's a means to some end. Just attracting a ton of money and stuffing it under the mattress is not going to do anybody any good. Right? If you want mattress stuffing, go and buy some mattress stuffing. And then you need money for the mattress stuffing, and that's the end. But money's only the means to the end. You see what I mean? So the reason you want money, and you might say, well, I just want to be able to pay the bills. Okay, how will it feel if you had all the bills and all your debts or whatever you've got all paid? How would that feel? So I suspect you probably would like a little more than that. And what often happens is that people are afraid to ask for more. They feel they shouldn't for some reason, which again, we could go into, but I don't want to take up too much time. So you want to connect with the emotion of how it feels to have the end result, not the money itself, but what the money will free you up to do or have or be. Maybe it's because you want to travel to Hawaii or wherever your personal dream places are. Maybe it's because you want to get your kids through university. Maybe it's because you just want to eat this week. I don't know what your situation is, but whatever it isn't the money itself. So I've done this so much with the law of attraction in the early years, trying to visualize a lot of money, and it's absolutely useless because you can't get emotionally attached to a pile of money. Most of us don't know what a pile of money looks like, and most of us don't use physical coins and notes anymore most of the time anyway. Electronic pulses on a magnetic stripe on a card. I recently downloaded an app to my phone that substitutes for my card. Haven't used it yet, but apparently I'll be able to go into stores and just point my phone at things that I want to buy. It's a bit scary. So I don't even need a card anymore soon. And all that happens is that numbers are changed up or down depending on whether I put money in or spend it in my bank account and in the store's bank account of equivalent amounts. That's it. So the money itself can be in any format, even digital. So you don't actually have to handle anything physical to have an exchange of goods or services. So question is, what is money? Oh, and I've spelt emotion there with a hyphen. Because, E-motion, because what does little e stand for? Remember E equals mc squared? Stands for energy, right? Emotion is energy in motion. That's how we feel, right? So when you have a sense of, I wish I had more money, what's the feeling behind that? That's one feeling, okay? Then you ask yourself, what's the feeling I'd like to have? So it might be freedom, relief, security, whatever you think the money will bring, right? Okay, so let's say security. So how will my life look differently if I have or had the kind of security, whatever I think that is for me? And everyone will have different definitions of that as well. These are subjective words. In NLP, they're called nominalizations. I think you know what I mean when I say I want security, but I don't actually know what you mean by it, and you don't actually know what I mean by it, because that's a personal, subjective set of rules and values that we have in our heads. So you decide what it looks like, and from there, you can get the visualization. That's what, and you don't have to be accurate with it. You just need to know what it feels like to have that and connect with that emotion. So that's what you need to do. You search inside for, why do I want this money? And what's the emotion with it? That's where the gold is. That's how you start manifesting. That's the connection. And then you make what I call a mental documentary inside your head. Now, what you do is, you don't have to visualize, oh, I have this, and I have this, and I have this pile, and this is what's on my bank statement. No. You don't need to do that. You just make a mental documentary of you doing things as if you had the money, spending it, going on holidays, your kids graduating from university, as if it was already in your past. That's the key. Just imagine, just do that. It doesn't need to be complex. It doesn't need to be in vivid detail. But by doing that, you're planting a seed in the ether, as it were, right? And then the next step is plant the seed. Okay. Now, when you've done those steps, you do that, you shift your focus to what's working. You feel good about life first. Don't start from, oh my gosh, I'm so worried and everything's terrible and I'm frightened, and what if the landlord comes around, do I have to hide behind the sofa? If you're in that frame of mind, you have to shift out of that first. You can't attract positive stuff to you from that position. Then you pan for gold. You connect with the emotion. Then you kind of make a mental documentary. That's happened. And now you do this little extra thing. Now you'll see I've got here a picture of a gardener's hands planting a seed. Now I don't know what those seeds are, but when you plant a seed, or when a gardener plants a seed in the ground, in the soil, let's suppose that's it's not sunflower seeds, I'm pretty sure, but let's suppose those are sunflower seeds. Okay, so he plants sunflower seeds, bit of water, bit of sunshine, some nutrients in that soil, whatever that is. And in the fullness of time, guess what's going to grow? Sunflowers. There's a surprise. Sherlock Holmes and me, we're like that, right? So you plant a sunflower seed, you're going to get sunflowers. You are not going to get daisies or daffodils. Why not? Because those are not daffodil bulbs or daisy seeds, whatever a daisy seed looks like. They're sunflower seeds. Now, I have no idea how nature knows what's in those seeds. There's some kind of, if those were sunflower seeds, which they're not, but let's pretend, somehow there is sunflower potential in those little tiny things. That's what there is. There's energy in there that will turn into sunflowers if you plant it in soil and give it some water and some light. Doesn't do anything else, and nature takes care of the rest. It's already predestined. It's predetermined. You put a sunflower seed in the soil, in time, you are going to get sunflowers. Now, it's possible, of course, that not every seed will grow. You might remember the biblical story, the seed sower. Some of the seed fell on stony ground, and some was eaten by the birds, and some was blown away by the wind. But the sower kept on planting because he understood that you just keep sowing the same seeds, and eventually you will produce the harvest, whatever it is you're planting. He knows he has good seed, so he keeps planting. He doesn't worry about the ones that get blown away or eaten by the birds and so on. That's a very important story. Okay, so here's the thing. If you're focused, let's go back to clean your sunglasses. If you're focused on what's not working, on how little you have, on, I don't know how I'm ever going to get money, etc., guess what you're going to reap? Okay, because you keep planting that seed. So you've got to shift that focus. That's an important first step. Okay, then when you get here, you plant the seed and the focus will change. Okay, let me just quickly hop back to the chat box here. I see there's a couple of questions. Okay, yeah, lovely. All right, I'll come to those in a second, or a few minutes. Okay. You're all still with me. Anyway, thank you for that. Okay, step 5. Let's move on. Now, add weed killer. Okay, because you have to do this step because of where we live, the culture we live in, the culture we've grown up in. You need to know how to kill off the doubts that will come. Because, and this was like, once I added in this step, things started to flow for me. Because I hadn't called them clean your sunglasses and pan for gold, but I kind of figured out the previous 4 steps quite a while before things started to work. And then they started to work, and then they would stop working again. And it was when I added this step that it kind of flowed. Because what would happen would be that I go, yeah, well, that's good. That's happened. I got that money, or some other bit of good fortune would come my way. But I don't know. I don't know if that really worked. I don't know if, it may not have been, that might have just been a bit of luck or whatever. You have to kill off those doubts before they take root. And the question I put there is, why would you believe them? Why would you believe those doubts? Why are those doubts more believable than, hey, what if this does work? Maybe it can work. It can work. Imagine if the sunflower seed had a doubt. Oh, I don't know if I can. I don't know. Am I really going to be a sunflower? I'm just a little tiny seed. Nature doesn't work that way. And what you're doing is planting seeds of desire, seeds of intention, if you like. If you keep digging them up to see if they've taken root yet, to see if they started to grow, is this really going to be a sunflower? You'll kill it. So you have to add the weed killer early. Okay, so again, this is to do with shifting your state using NLP. That's how I do that. Okay, there is a way to do that that's quite quick. I can't go into that in depth here, but it's quite easy to teach with a half hour to an hour kind of session. And then finally, kick back and sunbathe. I just love, this is a seal or sea lion. He or she is just having a ball there. Now, that sounds great. Okay, that's it. All you've got to do, you've done your job. Relax, it's coming. But this is where people struggle sometimes. What if it's not coming? What if it doesn't work? Now, there's the doubts. You've killed off the doubts, but also what you have to do here, the kickback and sunbathe, is actually let go and trust. And the way I like to do that, have I got time to show you? Yeah, quickly, I think I can. Want to try this with me? Okay, we'll do this very, very quickly. So if you don't get it straight away, that's okay, because sometimes this doesn't, it may not work first time. And this is not the ideal setting for doing this. So it's a kind of a meditation. Okay, so I'm going to assume, by the way, that you are not doing something right now that would prevent you from closing your eyes. So if you're driving a car, or if your toddler has suddenly got hold of a sharp knife or something, do not do this right now, because I'm going to ask you just to close your eyes. All right, and obviously I can't see you, so you take responsibility for that bit. So, but assuming that you are kind of just focused on what's going on here, and you're sitting quietly, just take a moment, close your eyes. Okay, and now just allow your mind to do, we're just going to do this for about 10 seconds. Just allow your mind to do whatever it would do. Just watch your thoughts. Wherever they go, whatever it thinks about, it's fine. All right, and I know you've got my voice kind of interjecting as well. But just close your eyes, and just for like 10 seconds, I'll just be quiet for 10 seconds. Just watch your thoughts. Okay, now you might want to share that experience in the chat box, but be aware that everyone can read what's going on in the chat box. I don't actually care what you thought about. It doesn't matter. Now, what I want you to do is try it again. You can open your eyes for a second, by the way. Try it again, but this time, I want you to just get curious and ask yourself the question, I wonder what my next thought will be, and just watch. It doesn't matter what it is, but just watch. Okay, so close your eyes, another 10 seconds with the curiosity, just like a cat is curious. You know when a cat's just watching a mouse hole, I sometimes say, which comes from Eckhart Tolle. When a cat watches a mouse hole, they're just curious. If something happens, they'll be on it, but something may not happen, so they just watch. So with that kind of curiosity, just watch to see, and I wonder what my next thought will be. Okay, 10 seconds, here we go. Close your eyes. Now, open your eyes again. Now, as I said, I don't know whether this experiment worked. I don't usually teach it quite this way, but what you may have noticed is that while you were watching to see what the next thought would be, there was a little period of waiting. I only gave you 10 seconds, but there was a second or two, maybe, of nothing, a gap between one thought coming and you waiting for the next one, a bit like waiting for a bus, right? Now, what was in the gap? No thought, no thing. You weren't asleep, at least I hope you weren't. You were aware, but you weren't thinking. Now, that's very interesting. Now, when you explore that gap a little further, and we don't have time to do that here today, but when you explore that gap a little further, and I can teach you how to do that, what you'll discover is, number one, feels great in there. Number two, you learn to trust and let go. Now, you remember at the beginning I told you this is about effortlessly attracting money. You do not need to make effort. Go and have a look at nature. Anything in nature, birth, death, sunflowers growing, the world spinning, the whole galaxy revolving around, whatever you want, and tell me where the effort is. Massive energy going on, but no effort, no struggle. It just happens. There's a little Zen haiku that I like that says, sitting quietly doing nothing, the grass grows by itself. And I remember reading that little haiku when I was a teenager and thinking, well, yeah, so? But now I think I understand it. You don't have to make an effort. The grass will grow anyway. And it's that, so it's putting yourself in that state, you know, focusing on what's working, getting clear about why you want that to happen, making it real in your mind with a documentary. Plant the seed, let it go, kill off the doubts, and relax. And that's it. That's how you do it. And it can be done very, very quickly. So let's recap. There are 6 simple steps. All mind shifts are totally within your control and entirely free to do. You're able to do this. All that's required is a little practice. That's it. Right? Now, I know that in all probability, the chances are you're out there going, yeah, well, you know, but are you sure this works? Does this really work? Can you promise me it works? No, I can't prove it like a scientist. I only know my life has transformed since I started doing this. The alternative, if you don't want to believe it or you don't want to trust it, is a lifetime of doubt, fear, and worry. Almost certainly hard work, the treadmill of 30, 40 years, or maybe more these days. Often it's something you dislike or even hate, just to pay the bills, just to keep going, just to tiptoe safely to the grave. And be honest, skepticism so far has got you absolutely nowhere. You're just stuck. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. I don't believe you would be here. Maybe you would. Maybe you're just curious to see what I would say. Maybe you already know how to do this stuff. So here's your choice. You can take all of this that I've given you, and I've given you the whole process, and try and make it work for you if you want. Or if you would care to, I can walk you through it personally. Now, I know that guy does look something like me, but that isn't actually me. He's a stock photo I found. So I'd like to introduce you to the Attract Money Miracles training program, which is very simple. So here's what I put together for you. 6 workshops, 1 for each step. Now, previously, these have only been seen by a tiny handful of people. I mean, really, a very tiny handful of people have seen these. I will walk you through each step, 1 step per workshop, and answer all your questions that come up along the way. Now, I will tell you that when I originally did this for that tiny handful of people, we did it with spaces in between. We did a workshop, then we had a few days, then we did another one, then we did a few days. You will have access to all 6 in one go. So if you want to sit down and work through the whole lot in one sitting, it'll take you half a day or so, but you can. So you can go at your own speed. I'll teach you some mind reprogramming, that's NLP stuff, and meditation skills and how to combine them that will enrich your life forever. Plus, with each step, you get a cheat sheet as you learn it. So you can download those, print them off, read them on your computer, whatever you want to do, which they're not, what's the word, transcripts of the trainings. They are quite in-depth, what's the word I want? They're quite in-depth studies that give you a lot more insight into how each step works. Those cheat sheets are a valuable part of the training. Plus, this is how I interact with you. I will give you access to an exclusive members-only Facebook group, Attract Money Miracles Coaching Facebook group, where I will be on hand even after you've completed the program. All right, and you can complete it in your own time, to answer your questions and chat with you, and obviously you get to know each other as well in there. So that's how you have direct access to me through that Facebook group. So as questions come up as you do each step, you say, well, I've watched step 2, 3, whatever it is, and I can't make this work, or I'm not sure about that, am I doing this, whatever it is, right? And you can chat to each other as well. So that's the program. So the question is how much? So let me just ask you first, what would total peace of mind about your finances, the freedom of knowing that you're master or mistress, I don't want to be sexist about this, of your own financial destiny, which is as close to total freedom as you can get, be worth to you? Now, that's a rhetorical question, but you can put an answer in the chat box if you want. But just think of a number. What would that be worth? Because I think that's priceless, isn't it? So if you had 6 hours one-to-one coaching from me, it would cost you just under $1,000. In fact, my costings are going to go up this year. But at the moment, 6 private sessions from me, just under $1,000. But I've already run and recorded these trainings, so you're in prime position to reap the rewards, and I'll tell you why you're in prime position as well. Because I thought about asking $497 for this, and frankly, I think it would be worth that, but I felt that was out of reach for far too many people. So I thought about pricing it at $297, because this did take me years to figure out, and it's changed my life. So I figure, A, my time and my skills are worth it. I'd be saving you a ton of hard work and bringing exciting new potential to your life. And again, what's that worth? And I think that's priceless again. I hope you agree. But then I had more second thoughts, or maybe there's a third thoughts. And because I now want to take this to a bigger public, I know the program works. I know I've tested the steps and the way it's taught on a small handful of people. I know that it's understood well, but I want some testimonials, and I want to then launch this to a wider public. Now, when I do that, I want to price it at $197. Okay. Now, you're not going to be paying that today. But I'm going to just give you an option here you should see, if you're watching this live, a button appear on the screen. And if you don't see the button, that's okay, because this link, wizardofwisdom.com/moneymiraclesjoin, which I will type into the chat box in a minute, will do it. But don't worry, because it's not going to be $197. Today, you can get the whole program. That's all 6 recordings, all 6 cheat sheets, access to the Facebook group, all available to you for $97. So once only payment, you've got it for life, and you've got access to that Facebook group, and therefore to me for as long as you need it. That's pretty good, actually, and quite an exclusive deal. So just to remind you, you get the 6 in-depth video trainings. You can watch them at your own pace. You get the exclusive Facebook group where I'll be on hand to discuss matters and answer questions, and we get to know each other, and the cheat sheets with each step. And the link you need is wizardofwisdom.com/moneymiraclesjoin, or if you can see the button on the screen, you can press that. Will take you to the same page. Now, I have something extra to offer you here. Now, if you're watching this in replay, it may be too late, because I don't know what's going to happen during the live presentation. However, early bird bonus. The first 3 people who sign up for that, I'm going to give you something. And I thought long and hard about doing this, but because it commits me, but I'm going to offer it. I will give 3 of you a private one-on-one Skype consultation of up to 40 minutes. Okay, now that is if you've got a dream about something that you'd like to do, your passion you want to follow, that requires, you need to attract money for it. Presumably that's, you've got some dream that money would pay for. I will help you one-on-one. I'm really good at this, to figure out the steps for setting up that dream. Now, understand, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not giving you financial advice, right? If you want to know, where shall I invest my money, or is this a good stock to buy? That's not me. Don't expect that from me. This is about, I can help you with marketing ideas, and I can help you with personal development stuff, okay, and law of attraction stuff. I will coach you in matters related to law of attraction. I will coach you in how to turn whatever dream you have into reality. I will help you overcome limiting beliefs, but only 3 people can have this, and it's first come, first serve. And I will email the winners. Okay, so I may, depending on time availability and on the uptake of this, I may add a 4th or even a 5th one to that. But right now, looking at my commitments in the coming weeks, I think 3 is probably what I can handle, and it depends, how available you are, where you are in the world, and so on. But that is a really, 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 I don't want to blow my own trumpet too much because I'm British, but actually I do know that I change people's lives. So to have a one-on-one Skype consultation with me would be quite something. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. So this is our time together for question and answers. So I'm now going to pop back to the chat box, and I will put that link in there right now. There's a few questions there for me. So the link you need is this, and I think if I type this, it's wizardofwisdom.com/money-miracles. Join. Okay. Or if you can see the button, you can click that and it'll take you to the same place. So we have a question or two here. Okay, so okay, Claudia, how do I find my passion? If I enjoy balloon decoration, does that necessarily mean it's my passion? Well, Claudia, it depends how much you enjoy balloon decoration. I think there is a significant difference between enjoying something and being passionate about it. What I mean by passion is, does it make your heart sing? Is it something that if you'd done it today, you'd go to bed going, wow, what a great day I had, and you'd wake up tomorrow morning thinking, I want to do that all over again, and I want to do that for the rest of my life, kind of. I mean, are you really saying to me that you don't think you have a passion in life? Because I suspect you probably do, or you did, and you've kind of gone, no, I can't do that. And that, I suspect that what's beneath that is some self-doubt, to the point that, not that you even probably feel that. I realize I don't know who you are, so forgive me, but I suspect that what's really going on there is that it's not that you can't find your passion, it's that you buried it somewhere, maybe a while ago, and that you don't have a sense of who you really are. What do you feel you came here to do? Or maybe another way to find it is this: tiptoe back through your memories and back to mid to late childhood, maybe into early adulthood, and ask yourself, of all the things that you ever thought you might want to be when you grew up, what do they have in common? So, maybe if you wanted to be, I don't know, an explorer, that's very different, has a very different set of values, for example, from wanting to be a nurse, or wanting to be a parent, or wanting to be a baker. You see what I mean? So, but some of them will have things in common. So if you wanted to be, if you thought, when you were, I don't know, 6, that you wanted to be an explorer and climb mountains or go into outer space, and then when you were 10, you wanted to be a farmer, then possibly what they have in common is that you like working outdoors and in big open spaces. See what I mean? I'm picking those out of the air, and there's probably slightly silly examples, but that's very different from I want to work in outer space and I want to work behind a desk in an office where nobody talks to me, because then the two, what they'd have in common is I want to be left alone a lot of the time, whereas you might be quite a gregarious person who doesn't want to be left alone. So then you'd have different things in common. Does that make sense? Try and find out what threads you were you had as a child. But also, a lot of people, they wanted to. They say, well, I'd love to write a book, but I don't think I can. Or, well, I love taking pictures, but whoever got rich taking photographs? Actually, quite a lot of people. Ask Lord Snowden, right? But that's the kind of that's the kind of clue that you might find there. Are you actually still here, Claudia? Yes, you are, I believe. So let me know. Can you? Is that helping at all? Because it's fine being able to see your question, but I can't see your reaction. So if you want to type something else in the chat box. Now, also, Claudia, you're my little star today, because you've also answered the question about what is money. So while I'm waiting to see what your response is to what your question, Claudia says, money is that means that is able to allow one to experience life at its fullest. Yes, I think you're on the right lines there, Claudia, but I would take it a little further. You see, okay, let me ask you another question. Not just Claudia, but all of you. Who, as a group, are the highest paid people in the world? Who do we pay the most money to? We don't even think about paying these people money. We just pay them. Who do you think it is? Is it politicians, doctors, teachers? It's none of the above. Now, I don't know whether anybody's putting anything in the chat box at the moment because it's all very quiet here, but I am aware there's a time delay sometimes. So, in order for there not to be long silences, I will keep talking. The highest paid group of people in the world are entertainers. People who make us feel good. Actors, singers, dancers, sports personalities. We pay huge amounts of money for these tickets. My wife was looking up the cost of a seat at the Wimbledon final this year, and it was £2,400 and something pounds. That's getting on for, if you're in America, $4,000 for one seat. And it was packed to capacity. So that's because it's entertainment. And millions of us, including me, sat at home. We didn't go to the live event, sat at home and watched it because it makes us feel good. It's meaningless, isn't it, otherwise? But so why am I saying that? Because when we talk about money, okay, so I'm British. Okay, so when I was a child, my father, who had obviously a wife, my mum, and at the time 2 kids, me and another one, he had a mortgage. This was the 1960s, okay? And so a house, a wife. Ladies did not work in those days. Ladies who were married did not work. You only When you're a girl, you grew up, you did something that you knew you were going to give up as soon as you met your husband. So you'd be a secretary or a nurse or something like that, and then you'd leave. And so my mum didn't work. She was a mum and a housewife. That's what women did in the 1960s. That's how society was set up. My father earned and brought home £14 a week. Now, I don't know what that was in dollars in 1960 something, but today it would be around about $25 a week. And out of that, everything was paid for. All our food, our clothes, all the bills, lighting, heating, petrol for the car, and the mortgage. £14 a week. Now, my wife and I go out into town and we have coffee and a cake each, and it comes to £14, and we don't think anything about it. Right? So we know that the value of things in terms of the number of tokens that we exchange for them, £14 in 1960, whatever it was, 1, 2, I think you could buy a house in this country, a small family home, for £400 or £500. Now it would cost you something like £80,000 to £120,000. Same house. But we just give a lot more tokens, which in this country we call pounds. And if you're in America, you call dollars. And if you're in Europe, you probably call euros. It depends where you are. And so on. Right? So we have devised all these tokens to exchange for what? Now you're going to say goods and services, which is economically true. But actually, how do we decide on the number of tokens to exchange for whatever good or service? How does somebody decide that a seat at the Wimbledon final is £2,500 thereabouts, and a house is £120,000? Okay, thank you, Claudia. Okay, that's interesting. Well, we should talk. How do we decide that? Well, of course, we don't decide it individually. It's decided collectively. One of the things that I have studied the stock market a little bit, I'm no expert on it, but I have looked at it a bit. And one of the intriguing things about the stock market is that the value of stocks and shares can rise or fall dramatically. I mean, can make or break people in some instances on the basis of something called confidence in the market. Now, you can't go out and get me a bucket full of confidence. I know that. So, what is money? I think that money is an exchange of, wait for this, I think that money is an exchange of love. It's saying, I value that so much. I love it. I love going to, I don't know, a Take That concert. If Take That announce some tour dates, their tickets will sell in minutes, possibly seconds, online, no matter how much they cost. Because Take That make millions of people feel good. Used to be Michael Jackson back in the day, right? And I could have picked any top selling pop artist. The Wimbledon final, people will pay £2,500 to go and sit there for 4 or 5 hours. That's it. They don't get any food for that. They have to buy that. That's extra. They don't even get the ride home. They have to buy the tickets on the train or the tube or the taxi or the fuel for their car or however they get there. That's just for the seat, to be entertained by 2 world-class tennis players for however long it takes to play the final. And people are willing to pay it. In fact, so many people are willing to pay it that Wimbledon a few years ago apparently extended the size of that stadium. They raised it. So they had so many more thousand people they could get in there. And I'm sure if they could do it again, I think they've reached capacity now, but if they could do it again, they would fill those seats as well. right? Now, people decide if they have that kind of cash available, I'm willing to do that because I would love to be there. It feels fantastic to do that, right? So, I think money is an exchange of love. So you say, well, I go to the supermarket, I buy my groceries, I don't want to have to pay any more than I absolutely have to for basics like food. True. And it's because we have that attitude that supermarkets can't charge £2,500 or dollars for a loaf of bread. Because we say, but, yes, I want my bread, but, there's this is supply and demand. But and what's called market forces. But market forces are really how you think about it. It's all in the mind. And the fact that money doesn't have to have any physical form, once upon a time it was goat skins, and then we changed it to coins and paper notes and checks, of course. And then later we changed it to credit cards, plastic with a magnetic strip on it. And now you don't even have to have a magnetic strip that's going. Now you have contactless things. I told you I've got an app for my phone, and my wife has a card that in some place you can just blip and wave it across the machine, and it takes her money. But no money, nothing physical is actually exchanged. But the goods and the services, oh yes, we've got that now, madam, here you are. And they give her whatever it is she's just apparently paid for, and it's all over in a fraction of a second. No cash registers, no coins to steal. It's just an exchange of value, and values in the mind, and it's about how much we love it. And so therefore, and this is the crux of this, you want to be wealthy, the more you love yourself, the more you bubble over with love of your life and who you are, the more you have to give out to life. The more you have to give, the more people will value you, because they value being around you. They value being a colleague of yours. They value being in your presence somehow, and they'll pay you. Now, you can't do it for the money. You can't do it the other way around. The money comes because you love yourself. Remember, I said right back an early slide, the more you love yourself, the more money will come, or words to that effect. I can't remember how I phrased it. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that's at least stimulated some thoughts. So it really is, it's about you. Money comes from a state of mind. Wealth is a state of mind first. Most people have it the wrong way around. They go, oh, when I win the lottery, then I'll feel so much better. But we know there are plenty of people who did win the lottery and were not in that state of mind and lost all the money again. I know a few didn't. And I'd like to interview them because I'd like to know what their state of mind actually was. The ones that held onto the money and did good things with it, or invested it, or passing it on to their kids or whatever. I'd like to know about them. So far, I haven't made contact with any to have that conversation, but I'd like to find out. I think that'd be really interesting, because there is a difference. It's all to do with mindset. It starts in the mind and it comes to you because of the way you think and feel, and it's about killing off those weeds. So, Claudia, if you, I see what you've done there. If you want to, I have your email address as well. Maybe you could let me know if you want to take that further. But obviously, I was on the right lines with what I said to you. So thank you for being so candid about your response. Thank you. I could help you with that, I think. Okay, so folks, I really respect your time, and I'm really, really grateful that you gave up some of it to be here today. I hope it has been of use to you. I'll just give another couple of seconds in case anyone is typing something into the chat box before I close this down. So, as I say, the offer is there of having this entire program right now for $97, and if you're quick, you can have that Skype consultation with me as well. And obviously, this will be replayed. A lot of people signed up for this, and quite a lot of them haven't made it today. So, if the ones who are here now, you are in prime position to get that Skype consultation. And also, I don't know how long I will leave it at $97 either. Once I've got enough feedback from it, I will put it up at the 197 price that I think it will eventually go out at. And I can't tell you how long it will be before that happens. It just depends how many people take it up at this stage. So that's my marketing plan. So, as I say, ladies and gentlemen, we've been almost an hour and a half. So I thank you very, very much for your attendance and your persistence with me. I hope it's made sense. I hope it's been useful, and I look forward to coming across to you again. I hope our paths will cross soon. And if you need to contact me, my website is wizardofwisdom.com. My email is trev@wizardofwisdom.com. Let me put that in. I think you probably all got that because you've been receiving my... There we go. You've been receiving notifications about this training. So thank you very much. I'm going to wrap this up, and I will see you soon. Bye for now.